All right, Ben Foster. This film, Leave No Trace, is such an incredibly emotional journey with these characters. It certainly stayed with me ever since seeing it. When you first read the script, what was it? Was there one sort of thing that stuck you that made you want to join the project?
Well, it was first with Deborah. I had been a fan of hers, and her work with Vera in Down to the Bone really knocked me out. And knowing that she doesn't make films that often. It was about 5 to 7 years in between each project. I was excited to read it and when I did read it that same day when it landed on my desk. That one thing was that my wife and I just found out that we were having a daughter with soon. So it felt I was very tenderized to the idea of parenthood at that moment when I read it, and that was the biggest thing for sure.
And that actress Thomasin McKenzie, who plays your daughter in the film, your relationship is kind of the core. Everything hinges on that relationship, and you two created such a amazing shorthand that seems so natural. I was curious how you built that. Was there a long rehearsal process?
She's such a lovely actor. She just she walks in the room, you're like, that's someone who's lit from within. She has a light in her. It was easy to connect with. She was just someone I felt very easy with. In terms of creating that dynamic, we shared tasks. Our training was out in the woods doing primitive skills class intensive. So I went in a bit early in order to be able to teach her some things, how to make a rain encatchment or build a fire. Those skills were important for me to be able to do practically. And it felt, rather than doing a traditional rehearsal process, that if I was able to help teach those things to her, those tasks would be our rehearsal. And I think, yeah, it felt very natural.
Do you enjoy sort of learning the survival skills and learning different aspects for different roles like that?
Oh yeah, it's the best part of the job. Sure. I get to come to work and say, I know nothing about this thing, and you're an authority, and you're going to teach me? This is how does that work? This in particular, make nature legible. Fantastic, and I encourage anybody to go take a weekend course. It's good for the heart. It's good for your sense of self in this world of cell phones and all these devices and this false urgency, to be able to go out into the woods and understand what you're looking at. It's good for the heart and head.
Yeah. Did that sort of, your characters in the film, obviously they live off the grid in the woods, for anyone who hasn't seen it, who might be watching. Did that sort of perspective shift for you? Did it make you think about the world of cell phones and everything to dive into this man who really lives off the land and does not have hardly any possessions?
For sure. I have a complicated relationship with the smartphone. I'll go for months being a news addict, and then delete all the apps in a hurry and put it away and get the flip phone out. And I just need to be a bit more disciplined with how, or we all have to be a bit more disciplined, I imagine, how we consume so-called news.
Yeah.
For him, it's a line in a script was the thing that dialed it for me. Was is it a want or is it a need? And
I actually marked that down. That's what struck out to me. Yeah.
That was it. That was when I read that line. I brought that to Deborah and prep, and I'm like, that's it. That's the whole thing. Can we do a pass of the script with that mantra, and and play the game that if Will needs to say it, he says it. If he wants to say it, he doesn't. And let's go through the script, uh, and remove his ability to communicate, or even his use of words, the way that he would choose his possessions. Is it a want or is it a need? And we ended up redlining the script till about 40% of Will's dialogue was gone.
Wow.
And we were able to, the more that I learned about nature's these primitive skills and actually do the thing,
Mm-hmm.
we were able to get rid of a lot of the chat, and that was exciting to refine and simplify and distill.
There's a lot that, as you said, that's an incredible thing to have your imprint on the script in that way. And there's a lot that is communicated just through your face, through your physicality. Does that add a layer of difficulty to the role when you're performing it, or because you did that pass through the script, it felt natural?
Uh, each job asks for different things, and you don't always know what that is going in. You get a sense you're drawn to it. There's a filmmaker. There's a part of a character you want to explore. For Will, it was a beautiful script to begin with. My heart was already tenderized with the anticipation of our daughter. I have friends in the military that have struggled with reentry. All these things were lining up in ways that I felt very open to it. And the door in became about being incredibly deliberate with language. Uh, and that was actually the way that I could understand him. So the challenge became the way, and that was the joy.
Yeah. And one of the reasons he is sort of quiet like that and is a man of few words is he's a veteran who is suffering from fairly severe post-traumatic stress, though the script doesn't really extrapolate on the details. Was there a certain any research that you did on your part that helped you dive into that mindset?
Well, I have friends that have served.
Yeah.
And have come back and shared with me some of those difficulties. But what I tend to want to consider is that trauma is not specific to war, and if you live long enough in this world, we're going to experience something that touches us in a way that might go unresolved, and we carry with us, and behaviors kind of deal with those memories or those imprints in different ways. I think part of it is trauma, his economy of language, but that's also his response to trauma is a philosophy, which is waste not. So there was a beauty to that. And when you're in the wilderness, you want to hear it.
Yeah, definitely. There's several characters in your background that you've played, like that are veterans who have served you were in The Messenger and Rampart. Is there something about that you're drawn to? Is there a conscious choice to pursue those roles, or is it just what comes along?
Well, those desert wars are my generation's wars. So they affected a lot of our peers, and it's still, and the ramifications of what those men and women went through and have gone through and are processing. We haven't even begun to see the repercussions of that.
Mm-hmm.
Being an actor, I'm interested in drama, and drama is conflict, and it's being moved by anybody that wants to serve anything. A selfless act is very moving to me. But this in particular, in Leave No Trace, felt like I could ask some questions, or questions about the unseen scars, in a way that I haven't done before. On a shelf of looking at militarized films, Lone Survivor, Messenger, Rampart, post-service, what do those struggles feel like? What do they look like? So I was excited to try and understand that more.
Yeah. Something you said about how he responds to trauma with a mantra. I was really struck by the way the film, when you watch the trailer, or when you think about the log line of the film, I think the audience maybe has a judgment on him, like, oh, he's, is he a fit father? That's sort of the question going in, because she doesn't technically have a shelter, the daughter, and is not in school, but then tests very well and is presented with, actually, I have a very rich life with my dad in the woods. And so does that shift that sort of the audience goes through, did that make you think about the way you see people differently, or the way you saw that character differently?
Yes. The privilege of being a journalist, or working in stories, telling stories in whatever capacity, is an exercise in empathy. And if things upon first reading might feel repellent, dangerous, unattractive, scary, there's usually something in there that I'm afraid of in myself or outside of myself that energetically could be unpacked by being a little bit more empathetic. And that's the privilege of the job, is getting to say, oh, I don't like that. What is that about? And how can I love that part of that person? So it's a nice way to go through the world. Because it's easy to get frightened and scared and sarcastic and judgmental and calloused in this scary world. But if we can practice a little bit more that you and I are not that different, that Will has made some decisions, that if we took a moment of pause and asked, we might learn something.
And so do you feel that, when you went through the script, did you ever like sort of mark it in a way that was, oh, he made a good decision for his daughter here, or a bad decision there?
Yes, but at the same time, when I'm reading it, I'm also trying to put part of my brain on hold, and get into the, when you love somebody, you defend them. And we will put up with a lot of nonsense of people that we love, and behavior that we do not agree with people that we love. So going in is, I have to go with love into these characters, and kind of remove that distance in order to defend them, and kind of love what they're after, despite flaws, warts and all.
Yeah. And one thing I want to make sure I talked about, because when I saw this a while ago, and the final scene that you and Thomason have, I don't want to spoil it, even though it came out a while ago, so everyone should have seen it by now. But in a sense, that last scene, there's, again, very few words being spoken. There's just a mountain of things going between you two without anything being said. And it's this massive kind of like act of letting go. And can you just talk about what it was like to go through that, especially with a younger actress?
To Deborah Granite's great credit, she wanted to shoot where the story took place, in Portland, Oregon, where the story is based, off a real father and daughter. And second, to shoot in order, in sequence. And as we were nearing the end of the journey, we had taken the trip together. And speaking with Deborah that day, I just said, let's not talk about it. Let's just not, we don't need to over talk this to death. But Tom's going to be there and I'm going to be there, and we're going to look at each other and we're going to say goodbye. And if you can be with someone with an open heart, and you have a great partner, we know it's going to hurt to the degree that there was a transmission that took place. I feel lucky to have experienced that.
Well, that's beautiful. I don't know that I can end it better than that, so I think we'll leave off there with the end. It was very beautiful to watch that moment on screen. And thank you so much for sitting down with me, and best of luck with all your other endeavors.
Well, I appreciate your time. I wish you a nice day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise.